Yeah, what
All right.
motion is?
I now call this meeting back into order. It is 12:17. Sir. All right, next on our agenda item is our budget workshop. Doug, you're up.
Okay. Does this need to be turned on? Yeah. Press the push button.
Okay, I've got some revenue projections to go over with y'all. We're going to be sort of flipping around between the pages and the packets and everything. The main comparisons are going to be comparing our proposed revenue budget with our current projections for this year. And it's there is quite a difference in our projected revenue. We'll go over those details. The first line is our property tax revenue. Our projection this year, $9,632,000 compared to $8,731,000, which is the new projections. And flip to page 2 there. You can see how we compute that. Of course, the main reason for the decline in that is that our current valuations have dropped from our projected valuation of $1,016,000,000 down to $928 million, and also the state compression tax rate drops from 96.64 to 96.34, and that's after we add back our five local option monies there. So there's 4 cents that's the local part, and then the 1 penny, the golden penny that we added last year carries over this year. So our tax rate, our maximum tax rate without a rollback election is 0.9634, and so that's going to generate at the appraisal district because certified value almost $9 million, and then we've got a projection for the fees assessed, and then we have a 5-year rolling average of the collection rates. This is a calculation based on the actual collection rates going back for the prior years, and it feeds through. So it ends up being 0.9754, and then we're projecting our delinquent tax collections also, which is based on a 5-year average there. So that's 134. So those numbers flow into the page here on the next page, the first page, and then you can see where our current revenue and our delinquent revenue, and then we're projecting our penalties and interest, and then we've got our Chapter 313 payment from the Paladura project projected to be $200,000, because that's based on our ADA, so it's going to decline a little bit from the prior year. And then the other items of significant decrease is interest income. The rates have just gone to hell. They're just down to, our CD rates are, really.
Like everybody else's.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm projecting $25,000 in interest revenue, where our prior year budget was $125,000, and the year ending 1920, we had $161,000 of interest revenue there. So you see how that declines. Most of the other revenue is going to be pretty consistent there for our local revenue. So we're projecting $9,297,000, which is a decrease from our current projections in the current year of $10,188,000. And of course, that's a huge drop, basically all in property tax collections and interest income. Okay, then we get to our state funds. the biggest drop there we're projecting is our per capita fund, which is a separate TEA program. It's not based on foundation, it's a per capita. This year we got an additional per capita amount of $996,553, and next year it's projected to be $388,272, and that's all we're guaranteed for this coming year is that 380. That's what the template is showing. So maybe at the end of the year there will be an additional amount added in there, but this is all that we can project for right now. Okay, you can see our foundation revenue is projected to go up from $9,475,000 from $8 million, which as our property wealth drops, our foundation revenues increase. But that, and of course, that changes on different levels of average daily attendance too. And so we'll go back to page 2 again, and I'm proposing a budgeted average daily attendance number of 1,925. The current actual amount for last year was 1,941.361. And you can see how in each column there going across, you start out at 1,875, and you can see the effect on that average daily attendance in dropping in foundation funds. The per capita money stays the same, but the foundation at 1,875, it generates $9 million, $9,130,000. At 1,900, $9,304,000. At 1,925, $9,475,000.
When will we have that exact number?
When will we? The end next summer. It's based on the average attendance for this coming fiscal year. It's going to be, hopefully, if we can get our attendance up with the officer that's going to be working on attendance and that kind of thing, that would help us. Of course, more students lead to more attendance. So it's just all we're doing now is this is one of the big variables in our.
But we ought to have a pretty good idea. I mean, things have actually stabilized in the economy, barring anything else from our friends in Washington. We ought to have a pretty good idea by the time school starts, kind of how we're comparing the last couple of years, correct?
For enrollment?
Yes.
Possibly. Yeah, we'll have an opening day enrollment, but we're subject to. In the past, sometimes kids don't show up opening day. That's just one of the variables that we deal with. You just don't know. So that's why I think using 1925 is a conservative number. You could have gone with 1900 and been a bigger drop, but that's a bigger dip in our revenues there if you go down. So that drops at $170,000 in revenue by dropping 25 students, which is huge, really considered what we're going to have to account for in this budget. But these are the different types of revenue projections based on each group, and of course the proposed 1925 is what we're proposing, and of course y'all might have a different proposal, but I think this is a reasonable amount for right now. So
Remind me where we ended up at the end of last year.
it's there in that column there on 1941.361, the middle column on the current year projections.
Okay.
Which is the 1925 is a drop from that number, obviously. And you see where we were in end of 20 was 2,050. So we're dropping 125 students compared to what we ended up with a year ago. So, but the other revenues, going back briefly to the first page again, the per capita money we talked about. The other state revenue is a component that's built into our Chapter 313 agreement. We sort of tracked a little bit differently there. The TRS and Medicare is a estimate right now, but when we get our final budget, this will be a revenue that actually offsets total expenses within the general fund there, because you can see how we ended up last year, our projections now and last year, so it'll change. The revenue could go up, but it will offset 100% with expenses that we have in the budget too. So see how that and the same way with the down there, the operating transfers, the consolidated revenue for, this is the expenditures that we budget for Title 1, 2, and 3, and 4. That will offset. So that number will be fine-tuned to be exactly what we budget for those funds there. So, but we're looking at a significant decline. Our budget that we adopted for the current year was $22,141,000, and this projection here is $21,073,000. So that's a decrease of over $1 million plus change there. It's going to be a challenge. We can come back with a balanced budget, I know it, but it's going to take some discipline by the people running the expenditures this year to keep within that budget. But I'm projecting, I think this year we're going to end up sort of a break-even number for the current year, which I'm hopeful. We had that big decrease in that T2 deal we talked about before. That's going to come into play, but we had a lot of areas where we haven't spent things in the budget, so I'm hopeful that we'll end up close to break even. So our fund balance is going to be still in good shape going in.
For everybody's benefit, what's the current balance in the fund balance?
It's about $8.5 million or so, something like that. So so that's going to be our challenge, is to monitor that, and it could be that there's not going to be a lot of money for capital projects for next year. We might have to end up amending the budget for the carryover amounts from this year that we didn't spend for like the softball project and things like that. But that money that we don't spend is going to go back into the fund balance to be available there to be amended later. I think we're going to have some savings in salary positions that we didn't have this year compared to last year, and I think we'll have some savings in transportation too by when we took over our transportation compared to what we had there. So I'm confident that we'll come back with a balanced budget, but it's going to require monitoring for down the road and everything like that. So there's a couple of items. We had the projection when we talked about the last board meeting about the T2 projection number, and I've got that copy there in the middle there. Actually, the TEA has a survey deal that is an aid to, it's a required filing, and that's sort of the second to the last page there. And that's a calculation of the current prior year certified values in the current year, and it projects a comptroller T2 number. That's still a projection, but that number was almost right on line with what we were projecting in that calculated amount there. We calculated that we would use $915,692,000. Their calculation is $915,697,000. So we were right in line with that. So I used the TEA number there in the template and everything. So it sort of reinforces that our thinking was right on the way we were sort of projecting that other number there. But it's going to be a challenge, but we'll come back with a balanced budget, and we'll hope for the best, basically. Then the next section we need to talk about is our INS section. Go to the third page. Which a copy of our certified values from the appraisal district is there on the very last page there. That's the number that carries over for INS $1,041,757,076. So that number carries over to our OAD certified values there. And that's a decrease from the prior year of $1,150,000,000 there. And our current tax rate, for this year was 9 cents. But the 9-cent rate at the new valuations is going to leave us 168,817 short of paying our debt service payments. So, of course, we're using a 5-year average on collection rates like we've always done. You can see how that's going across there, which the average collection rate is 0.9748. And obviously, the higher collection rate, the higher revenue we have. The lower collection rate, the less revenue. So you don't know for sure exactly what your collection rate is going to be. And then we project delinquent collections too. It's a 5-year average too. And the interest and sinking fund is not a huge enough number. But at that rate, we will deficit. In this current year, we ended up with a decrease in our fund balance of $72,000. And this is pretty much right in line. It's going to be close because we projected, you can see in the pages on, we projected our tax collections for July and August. We haven't got our July collection report yet, or obviously August. We're still collecting taxes there.
Is there any reason to believe, Doug, that they're going to be substantially different than anything else?
No. Pretty close, I would think. So we're working with these projected collections for July and August, which those carry over to the spreadsheets on both the INS side and the M&O side. But then to break even based on these numbers, it would require a tax rate of 0.106623, which would exactly break even. And I'm proposing a tax rate of 11 cents, which is going up 2 cents from the current year. And the reason for that is you don't know. We lost it. Our fund balance decreased this year, and you don't know the collection rate for sure. It could be less. We could have less money. We definitely need to have enough money in there to pay debt service. And then we've got the balloon payment due in 2028 for the 2017 that we've been talking about, maybe trying to build up a reserve in there. So what we're proposing is a 11-cent tax rate for INS, which is an increase of 2 cents.
What are our options there on paying the INS down? Can we use our fund balance? Remind me the rules here.
Okay, any kind of a certified debt of the district, if the board was to make a resolution to pay something in advance, that would become a liability that could be included as an obligation. Like if you called some bonds or something like that, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I've said this before. I think for everything I'm seeing on my side of the business, and probably Chris is too, and Tyler's not here, but this is the year we need to get through. I've said this for a couple of years. This is the year where all the tax appraisals on the local tax basis were going against us. So we need to get through that. I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I'll think through all this, but I think we'll get through this. I think we're going to have long term, realistically, we're going to have to look at how dependent we are on oil and gas. I think that's a real thing. I've talked about a little bit down at the appraisal board about this, but it's more about how do we do it and how do we fund it. I'm not reluctant. We need to cover everything. I want to do everything properly here, but I'm also reluctant to raise taxes on a local economy that's not recovered.
There's not much wiggle room there. You've got, if you don't raise the rate, you could end up not having enough money to pay your debt service.
Yeah, I was asking for what are our options as far as funding that.
There are no options except you could vote to do a transfer from the general fund, but we don't have the money there either.
You got 8.5 million.
Well, yeah, I guess you could do that if you wanna, if that's what you wanna do.
Well, sometimes we get slavishly devoted to maintaining a fund balance, when to me, the fund balance is actually, the point of it is to address situations where we've got a year like this. So I'm not sure we need to worship the fund balance, is what I'm saying. I think.
The fund balance is tied to our cash flow that we need to maintain to pay bills until our tax money comes in
We gotta have at least 3
December.
months, right, or 4?
Well, yeah, so more than that, plus it comes out of our, what we would invest in interest, which is not that
Well, I
crazy
mean,
too.
to
But
your
for
projection,
contingencies, there-
0.25 CDs is probably pointless. And the state minimum is 3 months, right? I mean, I've seen, there's other school districts, not like us, that are much, much closer to the state minimums, correct?
we, I think you need more than 3 months.
Yeah,
Our money doesn't start coming in until really the end of December and the first week of January.
And we wouldn't wanna go borrow money to make payroll. We've seen that happen.
I'm not saying this.
We've seen that happen.
No, and that's not my suggestion.
But the deal is, Doug and I had this conversation prior to this, when he first showed me these numbers. And, because I was asking, okay, is there a rollback on, can the taxpayers do this? Not on this one, because you have to pay your debt service.
Yeah.
So you've got
If
to
your-
come up with those numbers.
If
to
your
pay.
values were to drop down further, you're mandated by law to raise enough revenue to make that debt service payment. No matter what the rate would be.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's going up.
That's the covenant of bonds and all that kind of stuff too.
Right.
So, that's, and then, I've included my property tax collections. We summarize the collections for each month, and then we're, like we say, we're projecting for July, and we're projecting for August. And then, but the, I guess I would entertain any questions. I think it's going to be a challenge this year to maintain this amount. We're going back to, this budget is less than what we budgeted for 2019. And of course, 2019 and then 2020, obviously too, we generated actual revenue of a lot more than that. So it's going to be sort of a bare bones budget.
You know, and Doug and I are talking about, guys, here we got the loss in tax revenue. We got the loss, and we're getting double whammied, loss of students too.
Potential more loss in students too.
And we don't know what's happened this summer. I mean, enrollment's just started, we don't know.
That was my point.
Yeah,
about-
that's your point. We don't know what happened this
when-
summer.
You know, when will we have that? And I think we'll have a pretty good idea. I mean, I don't see really big swings in ADA during a school year. Most people don't. do
Well,
that.
after the first 2 weeks, he is right, a lot of don't come back right at the start of school, and then we get a few more when school starts. But, I mean, we're just getting double whammy is what's happening, because we're losing students and our values are going down at the same time.
Yeah, what I'm saying, you're gonna get a double whammy up, or a double,
We
have
hope.
the back up, I think, because I think the oil and gas revenues are gonna come back up. I don't know about the other properties. They should. I see a lot of houses being sold in town. I don't see the inventory that was sitting here when this was originally made, when we originally did those appraisals, so I think all that's in our favor. I also see with the houses filling up, you gotta assume there's some children in those houses too. So, I think it's this year, so I think it needs to be a bare bones budget.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
And it definitely is that, but again, as we look, we're always trying to project 2-3 years ahead, you know. What are we gonna have to do if things don't, worst case scenario, if things don't get better, you know, what are our next steps? I think we're okay this year, but next year's my worry.
Doug, you've been talking about this responsibility. Are we going to reemphasize to those controlling the budget, to control the budget, in other words, expenses and?
I definitely do that, and I've been working with Brittany on that too, and hopefully she will continue that. I think.
Okay.
So I hold people to the budget, and like right now especially, everyone seems to be coming up, oh, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, end of the year stuff. It's just, I mean, we've been doing like 4 or 5 of those, and I've found some money, and then a couple of instances, we've got some Title I money that we're spending because we're gonna be, we have to spend the prior year grant on that, so it's worked out pretty good for this year and stuff, but,
All right.
and speaking of Brittany, she had her baby
Oh, that's right.
the day before yesterday.
Little boy.
Everyone's doing great.
But guys, the whole thing is, you know, it's still cutting back. You know what I'm saying? We've
Positions is where we need to be
positions is
doing.
where we're at, and Doug and I've had those conversations. You cut positions, and then you know I heard already. You know your class numbers go up. You know what's that limit we want to be at before we start getting into the fund balance, and then you have a deficit budget. You understand what I'm saying? It's a hard shell game right now. I had Maribel look up. We cut 10 positions, 9
This year
maybe.
we're looking at
This
10.
year 10.
Last year
We
was
cut
16.
how many?
Last year was 16.
We cut 16. So the last 2 years, we
16 teaching, James? I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
no,
This
not all
is-
certified. Some
this
are
is
paras.
Aides,
But the teaching are the ones that give us the big bang. A teaching position, we're just saying is 50,000, just on average. So when you cut a teacher, you're cutting 50,000 out of your budget, bam, right fast. But your class numbers go up when you do that.
Well, some, and I'm not gonna want to sit here and argue, there's some classes that can take it, obviously. I mean, you go into a freshman chemistry class in college, and there's 300 people sitting there.
That's how they make
Okay,
money.
So, I mean, some classes can stand it, but some classes can't. So, I mean, that's really up to you guys on where that loading needs to be.
Right.
We've started some things here, Dr. Little started some things, you've continued to, okay, and I think they're all good things, but I think, Doug, even on, I know I keep nipping on you about the spending side, on getting control of even charge cards and Amazon accounts, but I think that needs to be looked at this year. Last time I was on the board, when we had a budget crisis, we had to go through a lot of this, and it was bare bones, and we actually could have red pencil line item things. And I don't want to get there, and a lack of discipline here is going to, you worry about your fund balance. If we can't control the costs we're aiming at here that we should be controlling, then we are going to start dipping into the fund balance, and I don't want to do that.
I don't either, yeah.
Doug, when you're talking at least 3 months minimum, state says 3 months on the fund balance. Where do you think we need to be on fund balance?
I think we need to be about at least 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5, which would pretty much be at the 8.5.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think we're in a
I
good,
mean,
I think
we're in a good
right
spot there
now.
if that's
Yeah.
the case, so.
And you're not projecting big shortfalls here anyway, the way you've
No.
proposed this budget. So with a little bit of restraint on the capital side and spending, okay, then I think we're, like I said, we're in pretty good shape here.
I think it's doable. It's doable.
You know, but just my projection with what they're telling me, you know, I'm thinking, you know, it's probably gonna be at least another 10 positions next year that we need to start looking at. And like you're saying, trimming classes, looking at classes that are not what they need to be now. And it may even, I hate to say this, not want to say it and everybody can hear it, it could be programs too. Some programs that don't have enough kids in them.
Well, I think we need to talk about that by the time we start doing stuff like that. And I'll leave it up to you and Dr. Rock as far as what needs to actually happen there. Again, I see some classes that could, again, my college example, some classes could grow. You could have 50 in the room, and it wouldn't make much of a difference, I think. But at the same time, there's some classes you need to be. It needs to be a lower loading. So. Again, I'm reluctant to whack the town on a town that's just gone through 2 years of basically depression, so.
This what we're going to talk about needs to be communicated to our principals, because they're the front line of defense.
And they do defend the teachers, and no, you can't do that. I mean,
It's
they
most
will
of
defend
the principals can say no to their people, and it's
They can't or can.
cannot. I've never met one that
and,
can't.
and they're like everybody else.
That's
guys.
They think
It's hard, it's hard to do that, but, and I will say this, I'm all for, I hate to say this, the little ones. They're so important, you've gotta have more one-on-one. your numbers gotta be less at the lowest. At the high school sometimes, and I'm an ex-high school principal for many years, sometimes those numbers can go up because those kids can handle it depending on the class. But if you do it for one, then that other teacher's going, well, how come they only get to have 15 or 10 or
Well,
whatever?
we've got a bare bones budget, we have to make the numbers work.
Thank you, that's what I want, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
And this is not, school work gets a little away from real world occasionally, but we still got a budget here. So they need to hear this. I'm not saying you go back and just whomp everybody, but at the same time, the principals, if that's where the source needs to reinforce spending controls, how we're doing it, approved purchases, we are spending state funds. So all this stuff has to go through normal procurement.
Which we do,
Yeah.
We do a lot better at that than
Well,
we've
sometimes
done.
it comes with a no.
Yeah, we do a lot better job on that than we had maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're still there, and that's the message I want to get out to the public, is we're still there, guys, we're not out of the dark.
Well,
by any means.
Yeah, and James, I don't think I was too far off in the last couple of years, but I don't see this as this kind of budget being a major change in the way we're operating. And again, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see an improvement in things come next year. But that's my projection.
Yeah.
But you could see how our foundation revenue jumped up. That sort of made up the decline in our tax revenue almost.
Yeah, you remember what I said before? I don't trust the state.
I know. But if our per capita money would have been the same, that's almost $600,000. That would have made that's a huge number. That would have made things a
much
lot
better.
rosier here right now.
And if our attendance is up at the beginning of the year, above the,
There you go. That's what
Yeah.
1925, we're gonna have some more revenue there that'll be generated
Yeah.
too for ADA, so.
I get a sense that in the economy here, we've kind of hit a bottom. I see it in my business, I think probably Chris does too. I think that's probably more realistic. I don't like the doomsday projections, so. And the last thing I want to do is cut educational quality into the classroom. So we've done some things, and we've made some extreme progress there, in my opinion, some great progress. We don't want to lose that, obviously, and I think we've got a really good team in place, and I think that's the bottom line. But again, guys, I laid people off this last year. I mean, it's been a hard year for a lot of different companies. You guys did too. So, I mean, we have responsibility as a taxpayer too.
So I have a meeting this afternoon with our chief appraiser to work up the truth in taxation notice that we have to get in the paper.
Yes.
So I've got a meeting with her at 2:30, so,
Julia or?
Lee.
Lee.
yeah. No, I guess Lee's what she goes by, yeah. And I caught her before she goes back to Fort Worth, so we're gonna get that worked out today. So that needs to be published so we can be in compliance with our requirements and stuff like that.
And guys, this is a budget workshop, so this is the chance for you to look at these numbers and have a discussion. We don't approve any of this stuff till August, so we got time to kick around, discuss.
What we need is a consensus on the tax, what to publish for the notice, basically. The 9,634 and 11 cents is what we need.
Are we locked in once we publish it?
No, but if we were, we would have a budget ready and you'd cut the tax rate from 9,634 to 90 cents.
Right. We're not
We
gonna make it.
would be in deep trouble.
I don't know if we're gonna get lynched for a tax decrease, thank you very much.
No. I mean, it all goes back to responsibility. You gotta have that money there to pay your debt.
Dan, and again, I know I sound like I'm beating on this, but we've been in this situation a couple times in this district. One time it got away from us, and the other time we just had to bite the bullet and do what we needed to do. We don't need to do that with this budget. This is not that far out of that, I don't think.
This is my best conservative estimate of what we're gonna have available.
I think you're being rightly conservative, but
I am
think you
being
are
conservative, which is my nature to be that, but I try to do my best to be actual, and I don't wanna come to the end of the year and not know, like, last year was, we overestimated foundation revenue because of the T2, but we as a group decided on that discount
We did.
there. So I spread the risk out on that deal.
We did.
And then we all know we budgeted, 2,025 students, and we ended up with 1941, so we took a hit on that. It's things out of my control that usually happens.
Well, if you do something with the CD interest rate, you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah, I don't have any control over that
We're
either.
not getting much interest right now.
Yeah, I
Anything.
But I do my best to try to invest the funds I try to keep
No, you're-
uninvested funds at a minimum there.
I'm just making fun of
Yeah.
that. Those CD rates are CD rates.
Yeah, they're not there.
They're not there.
So, questions, comments, anything at all? Feel free.
Once more?
More, yeah.
Give me more.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks for putting this together, Doug.
Yeah,
A lot of good
appreciate it,
information.
Thank you, Doug.
Is that all?
So we have a consensus on 11 cents?
That's what he's needing. He needs
Yeah.
the 11 cent consensus. So he can put.
I don't know if it's a motion or not, but it's,
A feeling that you need to know.
yeah, we need to plan for it. If y'all don't want to do that, I think you need to tell me now.
But you need to give it late this afternoon, so you need to put something in the paper.
Yes.
Yes, we've got to publish this.
And then leading with that will lead to the budgets that we have ready to adopt. So it's, I would say we're committed. Obviously, you can't raise the rate on what you publish, but you can go down. But if you were to cut the rate cut it at the last meeting, all our paperwork would not right, our budget would not be right. We'd have to come back and, all that kind of stuff.
I think I would be okay doing the 11 cents is with us relooking at some things between now and then, and
And hopefully,
and then hopefully, yeah, maybe
we'll have a refi on that budget, which should help lower the rate going forward, when we come back with the refund that 2012 series, which y'all met with those financial advisors and stuff like that, which it needs to be done. It's sort of a no-brainer to at least refi the main one after the arbitrage period ends, that negative arbitrage ends.
I'm okay with 11 cents, as long as we look at things. I agree with Ned.
Well, I mean, and if we see the spending restraints from the principal level down, and the board down, quite honestly, that, if we have that restraint and we get some additional dollars there, we can feed the fund balance too. That's not that.
If our enrollment goes up, like I said, we'll know by then.
Yeah, I think this is, I think we're at, my bet would be we're at a low point in the whole local economy, so I think it goes up from here, so.
I know that the county and the city are both raising their rates too.
They got good too.
The county is in worse shape than we are because you can see our taxes, our property taxes go down, but our foundation money goes up.
Well, I think some entities, I'll say this and offend everybody, some entities sometimes think the taxpayers' bank accounts are for piggy bank.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of complaints a couple of years ago, and they were trying to put caps on spending rates. Again, I'm trying to offend everybody here, but I think we had some pretty good tax rate increases in the midst of a bunch of people getting thrown out of their jobs. It really bothered me. And so, yeah, I know they're in a tougher spot, but everybody's going to run their budget. Same thing I'm saying to you is that we've got to put our own cost controls in place. And it's not up to the taxpayers if we can't manage our own jobs.
And we did for salaries this year. We didn't, the teachers got their step raises and a few new administrators were hired with new starting raises, but no one else, very few raises were, there'll be step increases for paras too with the plan. I remember the plan we approved and everything, so it's not, we're doing our best to try to sort of hold the line.
Yeah, my comment wasn't directed toward the school system.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
understand.
Really, the thing that hurts us out there are some growing communities, and they're giving teacher stipends, they're getting more students, you know what I'm saying? And they're giving stipends, and so our teachers are going, why aren't we getting stipends? Well, we're just in the opposite end of that deal. We're not growing.
You had a budget 2 or 3 years ago here, 4 years ago, that there was a proposal to raise salaries in the middle of a $2 million deficit, if I recall. And that's not dealing with
Yeah,
reality.
that's not good, yeah. Yeah, that's not good.
And this year too, especially, we've got ESSER 3 grant and ESSER 2, and a lot of the instructional supplies that we were spending on that is, we're supplanting what we would be spending. So that makes me feel better that we can make this work.
If we get a clear answer on what ESSER without a lot of strings will actually pay for, then I'd feel better.
Yeah, well, we have a pretty detailed budget.
And a
for-
pretty good plan, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, there's some salaries that's tied to ESSER also in there too, so. But it's accomplishing the intent of the ESSER was to help eliminate the learning
Loss.
decrease that's happened in students, from last year.
What was the other number you needed, Doug, besides 11 cents?
Well, the M&O rate is sort of a no-brainer, the compressed rate, 9634, that's the maximum rate without anything higher would require an election, which, we don't want to go there.
No, we don't want to go there.
Which is actually a decrease in the rate that we had last year of 00.30.
You like those CD interest rates.
Yeah.
I think you got consensus now. I guess everybody said, Pete, you did it. All right, that's good.
So we have a consensus.
We'll come back with our on the 24th, we'll have the whole full-blown budget ready to go.
All right. Any other questions? Not, move on to our discussion, our action items. Mr. Morales, we have discussion and possible action on the return to in-person instruction plan.
Darren, Dr. Rock, myself, I believe our health person, Officer County Health, has looked at this plan. We have taken this plan from other schools of kind of what they are doing also. Basically, it's, the major things are instructional information for families. Perryton ISD will only provide in-person, on-campus instruction for all students. That's in this plan. If there are changes that come from the governor, TEA, CDC, we're putting also in here, may need to change protocols as time to address specific needs and circumstances in order to protect the health.
Can we eliminate the CDC?
What's that?
Can we eliminate the CDC?
I'd love to do that. I don't know if we can do that. We're just saying we want to return to school pretty much just like we left. But if changes happen, we need to be able to make those changes.
Let me say this out loud for everybody here, is we did a really good job last year. We were cautious, but we showed, the whole school district administration, everybody else showed some courage, and I think the community did too. And because of that, we're nowhere near the bind of some of the other school systems in other parts of the country. We did the right thing, and that's where and I thought we managed it well, and that's what we need to continue to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're doing. We have a lot of other safety things that we were doing last year, the sanitizing, the misting. We're going to keep all of those in place that we were doing last year to protect them. We're just not doing the mask. Like we started off at the beginning of the year with the masks and then got away from them. So right now we're not planning on doing that. But every place I look, we're doing pretty much all the safe things that we can do to protect our staff and to protect our kids. And probably one of the discussion items there is if we do have a case, who we report it to, how we go about contact tracing, and then again, who we send home. That's what the parents want to know.
And we're maintaining local control of those policies.
Yes. Yes.
We're not far, and as far as how we were doing it last year, is it kind of how we're starting the year?
Yep. Pretty much. Darren, would you agree or disagree?
Yes. The indication is recommending that we let the health department do contact tracing. The reality is, if we let health department do contact tracing, there's such a delay that it's already a moot point by the time they tell us who we should have sent home.
That's right.
So we're going to have to do our own contact tracing just to stay on top of the game. Just like we did.
Just like we did last year.
Just
we were
like we
doing it
did
last
last
So
year.
basically, we're just gonna start the year the same way
We finished
we
last year.
finished last year.
Right. And the governor says we cannot require masks and we cannot require proof of vaccination. It's not even an option. Not that we as a group here want to go that way, but it's off the table.
So we're just highly recommending, that if parents want to get their kids shots, and we're talking about the ones that are available for 12 or above, it's just a recommendation. It is not a requirement that they go get their kids shots. But, it is a recommendation.
And optional for anyone that wants to wear the mask as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, if they want to wear a mask, they can.
And I just want to add two things. Campus administrators have also reviewed this draft, and I just want to remind everyone that this return to school plan is a requirement of the ESER 3 application.
The school plan, just having a plan in place.
Correct.
Right. We got to have a plan in place to receive those funds.
Okay.
And it's very much a living document because we know how it went last year and things will change and we will have to modify our plan as things come down. We've talked about which agencies have an impact on us. The bottom line is TEA, by determining what we can and cannot count as attendance and the impact that has on our budget. Those are the ones, what they say that determines how we count attendance. Those are the things that we don't have a lot of leeway on. Because we, as we've already discussed, can't afford to have kids not counted.
Well, and I think having a year underneath our belt with the COVID and the changes that do occur, I think we're better prepared this year as a whole. So,
Yes.
Experience is a hard teacher sometimes.
yes, it is.
It is, and we're all experiencing this new variant, it's out there, so people are wondering how we're gonna handle that and deal with that. But the one other thing I did want to say, last year you all extended the, I don't want to say the 10 days if you got COVID for the people that didn't use that. Probably need to say, we're not going to do that this year because I think the end of that was August 31st, is that right, Doug?
Right.
Of those 10 days, so our teachers need to know that if we're not going to do that. Which right now I don't see any reason to, but.
I agree with that.
Be something we evaluate as we go.
Yeah, this thing's a living
Yeah.
document, we need to know that.
It's a new document.
I agree, but anyway, we do need a motion to approve the return to school plan.
Did you need to address Wes's comments, what he wanted to change?
Yeah, we did, Darren, that's what Darren addressed, I think, didn't you, Darren?
So we're not.
To Wes's comment?
Yes, I mean, we can modify it to add those recommendations versus what's written in there because it does give us a little more wiggle room. But we also want to be clear to the parents on where we stand. So we will work on getting a happy medium in there on
Awarding.
that portion of it. As far as, like you said, which agencies we're going to have to listen to. Just
It's really hard to be real specific right now. I mean, it just really is.
As long as we start the school year like we ended, I think we're good. We'll just
Yeah, I
play
think
it by
that's
ear
right.
from there. I'm good with it at that point.
Any further discussion on any improvements to the plan?
Get rid of the CDC.
If not, do I hear a motion to adopt the back to school, possible action on return to the instruction plan?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Any other business for the good of the school district? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned at 1:08.
Okay, you got a lot of information